Hello and welcome to Simple Life Philosophy, and I'm your host Ed Raby. This is the channel where you can follow along on my journey to find a simpler philosophy of life that is both easier to understand and easier to execute. It's about following me as I try to find that simple life that has eluded modern mankind for quite some time, and thus make my life more productive and easier to deal with. Today we're going to continue on our journey into Stoic Viking meditations. This is the series where I give you some sort of challenging thought for the day, perhaps some inspiration, perhaps just something to think about that you can kind of draw some strength from in your day. Life is a hard thing from time to time, and perhaps we just need the right frame of mind, and I'm hoping to help you find that right frame of mind, just like I'm trying to help myself. Today I want to talk about the 9 Noble Virtues, which I continue on this series with 9 Noble Virtues. I've done the 9 Noble Virtues before in a small series that didn't take off very fast. But today in Stoic Viking Meditations, I want to talk about the 9 Noble Virtues, and I want to hit the second one, which is discipline. Discipline says, I will do what is necessary and right of my own accord without bribe or threat. Let's break it down. I will do what is necessary. That's the first statement. Now, this is where practice Stoicism can help us with this virtue a little bit. Stoicism says that we have the power to do things about things that we actually have power to do. And the greatest wisdom that one can achieve is to know what one can do and what cannot do. What is within our power to do something about, and what is not within our power to do something about. And so what Stoicism can do is give us the wisdom to figure out the differences between the things that we can do, and thus we can narrow it down to a few options, and then we can simply say, well, what is necessary? What is the most necessary thing to be done? And I think this is one of those things where Stoicism can help us really start to define what is necessary too, because we can begin to see and say, hey, now wait a minute. We have 20 things here. Because we've narrowed it down to 5 things that we can actually do something about. And we look at these other 5 things that we can do something about, and we realize, well, what is the most necessary thing to be done here? Well, then we can look at Stoicism again and say, well, what is the right thing to do? What is the thing that must be done? What are the things that are optional? If something must be done, then it becomes the necessary thing. If something's optional, what is the most necessary of those optional things? Or are they even necessary at all? We can begin to whittle down our choices, and maybe in the end, we don't have any choice. Or maybe we only have 1 or 2. And it really becomes a question of what benefits the most. Now, the second part of this virtue says, I will do what is right, necessary, and right. Now, right is a moral quality here. We're not talking about politics. We're not talking about going to the literal right. What we're talking about is what is right morally? What is the best thing to do morally? And that becomes a bigger, more wider question. When we look at morality, most people think of the golden rule. What is it that, and I prefer the version of the golden rule that says, don't do something to somebody else that you wouldn't like to be done to you. Okay, that kind of eliminates a lot of your actions that could be harmful. And then that leaves a few actions that might simply be neutral or beneficial, and then you can decide which one is most right according to whatever criteria you have for the rest of your wisdom. Determining what is right can be very difficult, but what discipline is saying is, I will do the right thing. I'm not going to sit on it. What discipline counteracts is what I would call apathy. This notion that somehow, I don't know if I really want to do it, I don't know if I care. The problem with that attitude, and I sometimes catch that attitude quite a bit, particularly when I'm at work, but the problem with that attitude for everybody is it really kind of undercuts our moral fiber. Because if we're really going to talk about discipline, we're doing something because it is right to do. It is the right thing to do, and we should act. It is better, according to discipline, to act than to not act. Now, I will maintain this caveat. That sometimes the most brave action and the most disciplined action can be to do nothing. To hold one's ground and hold one's peace in the face of adversity sometimes is an action. And it is the best action and the best course of action, the most necessary action and the right action. So we have a few criteria. What is necessary? We will do what is necessary. We will do it as right. And we will do it of our own accord. In other words, we will make the choice to do these things, not because we're being bribed and not because we're being threatened. Remember, we go back to courage. Threats should not work against us. Because if threats work, that means we're afraid. And if we're afraid, we're not being courageous. So a threat cannot work against us, okay? Because it really doesn't have that power if we're truly acting courageously. It means that whoever is threatening us has the power over us. And that is not something we want if we're following the 9 noble virtues. We want power over ourselves, and we want to walk into every situation like we're the king or queen of our own lives, or we don't give a crap who the king and queen is. Okay? Because we're going to do what's necessary and right, because it's the necessary and right thing to do, not because we're being threatened, and another one, not because we're being bribed. Are we gaining anything out of it? That kind of gets rid of that, doesn't it? Because any personal gain takes a back seat to what is necessary and right to do. What is the necessary thing and what is the right thing to do? Now, this leads a lot to personal discipline. For instance, there are some days I don't feel like getting up and doing my morning routine. But my morning routine becomes a necessary thing because it leads to personal benefit and benefit to others around me. And 2, it's the right thing to do. Morally, it's right to take some time to make my bed, lay out my clothes, do my meditations, do my stretches, do all the things that I do in the morning routine to get ready to be who I need to be for the rest of that day. And those are necessary and right things to do because it puts me in a position where I'm not being coerced into something and I'm not being threatened. Okay, I'm not being bribed into something. I'm doing it because it's the necessary and right thing to do. If bribery enters the picture, if you're doing something purely for the money's sake, or purely for advancement or promotion or whatever it is you're looking to do, then are you really being a moral person? Because at that point it sounds more like selfishness, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if it's taken in the context of, I'm doing this for myself, but it's also the necessary and right thing to do. See, necessary and right, that kind of defines discipline, doesn't it? And all the disciplines that we do, whether it's from lifting weights like I do after work, why do I do that? Well, I discipline myself for that because it's the necessary thing to do. I need to maintain my health, and it's the right thing to do. I want to stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible, so I'm not a burden to other people. But that's another discipline entirely and another virtue. But the point of discipline, as always, do the necessary thing, do the right thing, do it of your own accord because you want to, and don't be bribed or threatened into it. But understand that the reason you're doing it, and this is the real litmus test if something is truly in the virtue of discipline. If you're doing it because it's necessary, or you're doing it because it's right, and you're doing it of your own accord, but you're not doing it because somebody's bribing you to do it, and you're not doing it because somebody is threatening to do it, then that's when it falls under the virtue of discipline. Just something to think about as you consider what disciplines you need for your own personal life, and as you consider how life is leading you along. Do you want to be the kind of person that is known for doing the right thing, doing the necessary thing, doing it because you want to? Because those are very noble things to aspire to. But a person who is easily bribed into anything, who is a mercenary in all situations, can't be trusted. And a person who does things only when they're threatened to do them, that's not very nice either. You should be doing the right thing and the necessary thing just because it's the right and necessary thing. I want to thank you for stopping by. This has been Simple Life Philosophy, and I've been your host, Ed Raby. This has been another edition of the Stoic Viking Meditations. Follow this little series along probably every other day at present at about 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. So different time zones in the United States. And for those of you across the pond, I do believe that puts it at about noonish or so, maybe a little later. But just stay tuned every other day in the morning about that time for hopefully your daily, for some inspiration, for some way of looking at things a little bit differently, and maybe some courage or discipline to face your day. And hopefully you'll continue to enjoy this series on the 9 Noble Virtues as we go into the future. I thank you for stopping by. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Do all those things that you're supposed to do with YouTube videos. Comment below, because I'm always interested in hearing your thoughts. In this particular case, your thoughts about what discipline means to you and how you are trying to become a more disciplined person, doing the necessary and right things. And I want to thank you again for stopping by. It does this old Stoic Viking a little bit of good and warms my heart to know that people are maybe learning something from me. I do appreciate that. And once again, thanks. And I hope you have a great day filled with courage and discipline. Go forward. Do the necessary thing. Do the right thing because you want to. And I'll see you again, and I hope you have a great day.